Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and I'm here with clan mother Karen MacDonald. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alfred. And yeah, it's great to be here again. Yeah.
And this is the follow-up program on our 5G program that explored the directed energy weapons attack that Karen, who's a 5G educator, was subjected to. In this program, what we said, we're going to be covering the solutions to 5G. Many people on the planet, I mean, you know, immediately everyone is waking up to the fact that we're being faced now in 2019 with the 5G rollout, and that the 5G rollout is is by the evidence, a genocidal and ecocidal EMF systemic weapon that has been developed in Israel, where it is illegal to deploy. The other place that it is illegal to deploy, we've heard, is in Mar-a-Lago,
Yes.
in
Trump,
Florida, which was willed to the nation as the Southern White House by Merriweather Post, and was worth $150 million, and it was willed to Donald H. Trump, who apparently is the Khazar kind of proconsul to the United States now, and was given to him via CIA for $6 million. People should understand, and I just want to say this from the initial, that this is not a, quote, anti-Semitic program. In fact, the Palestinians are the Semites in the state of Palestine, which has existed from the time of Christ, from before the time of Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, and that the interlopers are the Khazars there, and that I was a judge of the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal, and that tribunal found the state of Israel to be guilty, after hearing evidence, to be guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide against Palestine, against the people of Palestine. From 1948 forward, there have been more than 5 million inhabitants of Palestine killed, genocided by the occupying Khazars under a false religious doctrine since 1948. And our judgment came down less than 6 years ago, right, under international humanitarian law. And so it makes perfect sense that from the state of Israel, a global genocidal weapon like the 5G system, disguised as a telecommunications device, would be launched against humanity. And those of you who heard our most recent program would know that clan mother Karen MacDonald was attacked viciously. You can see all the scarification with directed energy weapons, because she was engaged in her Saskatoon, Saskatchewan area with educating the public, educating different institutions there about the genocidal and ecocidal effects of the 5G tower that is now being erected and rolled out in the Saskatoon area. So in this first part of the program, we're going to cover what are from a health point of view. Karen is now in recovery from that directed energy weapons attack.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to preface that this program is under the protection of international law, and we're commenting on a technology that has been released out into the world from the war crime state of Israel. And this is not, quote, an anti-Semitic or racist program. It is a statement of fact about a genocidal program that is released by a war crimes, genocidal, and crimes against humanity state.
Mm-hmm.
Over to you, Karen.
Thank you, Alfred. It's like, where do you go from there? Yeah, please excuse me. I'm still sounding very much like a frog here. A lot of people don't realize that the 5G towers are a form of weaponization. In fact, I just spent today speaking to the local naturopath and holistic biological dentist and stuff in Saskatoon, and no one seems to have. I mean, if anything, you would think these people would be sort of up a little bit more on what's going on, but totally oblivious. This weekend, I also spent some time speaking with former RCMP and Saskatoon City police officers this weekend, and they were not aware of it either. So, I mean, where do you start, like, on the boots on the ground kind of approach here? When I got back into Saskatoon in like 2016 or so, the smart meters were already coming on to the houses. So that was the first thing I did, is I got everything switched back to the analog. And at that time, there was someone from the city of Saskatoon, one of the managers, and he wanted to know if I'd be okay if we put against smart water meters. I said, you put any more on here, I said, smart is a weaponized military, terrorist type of weaponry against the people. I said, absolutely not. You don't have my permission. However, I've seen now in Saskatoon, they've got little vans going around now that they want to put smart meters on the water, which means they'll have the ability to destroy the bonds, the hydrogen bonds. It will actually make that water toxic to people. Not only that, if they wanted to, they could actually shut it off right at everyone's house in here. So it's not just the smart meters, which we've seen the ramifications, from direct energy weapons that we've seen in Paradise, California, or things, have been rolling out for quite some time. So, I mean, it's kind of like, the Twin Towers, the 9/11 thing. Well, now it's the Paradise, California, like, how much down the rabbit hole we need to go. So once we saw that in 2016, I did get it off, and I started, doing really simple things. I didn't have to get a $50, $150 like shield. I just started meshing them up. I also started getting people, not only myself, to actually get from the city of Saskatoon, dentists and stuff, to actually get the analogs put back on, which I thought was very, I did something, right? So we were getting the actual analogs put back, and there was no problem. Now we've received a letter a friend of mine has, because I'm behind some of the people that will at least do it. And I was surprised there's only 100 and some people that actually opted for the opt-out. And I have been to people's places where they opted for the opt-out of the smart meter, and yet they had one on their house, and they don't even know. They just know they don't want it, but they don't even know what it looks like. So, I mean, there's been so much education to do here, from ground zero. So that started in there. And then I had not only my cousin, but different people start putting letters. And we received some back. So I've got copies of them as well from the city of Saskatoon saying, it's not a smart meter. In fact, Sask Power and Sask Energy, that's their, oh, it's not a smart meter. It's an AIM, or it's an El Clara. I said a weapon is a weapon. I don't care if it's like, a Mustang or a Ford or whatever. A weapon is a weapon. I don't care what you call it. So we did actually receive, and we were able to get some more taken off, like for friends of mine, because I could see they were actually shaking, almost like MS symptoms, like Parkinson's, brain fog. I know through my connections to Mark Steele now, I sent him actually a lot of people, Sasha Stone, a lot of people, our interview that we did, I sent it out all over, and to make sure that they're aware. And it's not just the children having nosebleeds. I mean, the neurological toxicity off this, what we call it, as a former nurse, but we call it central nervous system. It's eyes, and actually my eyes are still, they feel like I've been sunburned. you know, so you can't see the kind of damage when it comes in, you know. So I want to talk a little bit about that we'll get to, but what are some of the things I have done that's been helpful. But I mean, this is now going in since, you know, May 17th. And I think actually going back, looking at my pictures now and stuff like that, it's been a little bit longer they've been at me. So I, you know, was trying to figure out what was going on. And now there's some other, you know, like I said, you're starting to connect the dots a little bit more. So I think this has been a little bit longer. And like I said, whether it's that particular 5G tower on and off or hidden at night or remote controlled, even here, when I moved in or whatever to help recuperate, the actual guy came up. First of all, they told us it couldn't be done. And I went through a lot of crap with that. And then as soon as I get in, I said, listen, I know there's a hidden, and that's what most people don't know, Alfred, there's a secondary chip in there. There's a two-way communication chip. So we actually had him come out here, and he had a remote control, just like with your TV, and he shut it off. So, I mean, people can put all this meshing that they want, but you still got the chip in. You know, all it does is it slows it down. I mean, no radiation is safe. I mean, we can see what's happening here. The whole street now has been like converted over to the, you know, 5G little millimeter LED stuff. And they've been doing that simultaneously. And now they're running wires across the street. And I'm like, now what are they doing? But the trees that face that side are all turning brown and rust, which is why in a lot of areas people are seeing, they're just cutting down the trees so that you don't see the damage. If it's burning the trees, or in the Netherlands where we know that it was deployed and turned on, the birds all dropped out dead. You know, what this has, you know, it's millimeter stuff. It's, you know, microwaves. I don't know about you, but when my mom first got the microwave, and I was still a little teenager, but I made the mistake of sticking like, I think a spoon or a fork or something in the microwave with some water or something. Big mistake, never did that one again. But you saw the sparkle and crackling and all that stuff. I thought, oh my gosh. So the correlation, if people have ever done that, any kind of metal that you have, any kind of prescriptions that you have, any genetically modified foods, you know, I was saying it's like having oral sex with Monsanto. The amount of heavy metals and stuff and particulates that are in unclean food is astronomical. And so they are more than just triangulating the towers around us. You know, it's making a lot of people very, very nervous. And we've got lots of friends of mine that have been sick. They've been like this for like 3 months, 6 months, coughing. They can't get it out here. Because again, radiation is almost like Fukushima too. You can have your ionizing and non-ionizing. But, you know, recently, not that long ago with Patty Broussard, when we were going over with the space station and she was going over, it was glowing all yellow. We had 2 leakages in the Saskatoon synchrotron, which of course they hide underneath the Circle Drive. So now I got a Fukushima. We've also seen them off-gassing a lot of these materials at night. So again, the public doesn't see that, but you're experiencing it, the side effects. So you combine all the things that are happening, plus this is one of the few fluoridated cities, I might add. You know, it's like, what did they say? They had 117 kill cities or something. So one of the things we need to do is look at what it is. And I mean, there's more than enough stuff. I've actually talked, just got some stuff back with Professor Bennett, is just getting Curtis. So I hear he's been doing some astronomical things. So someone had seen your program and our program, and they're like, you got to get in touch with this guy in BC. And he's the professor. And he said, this utility thing, Karen, no way. So he's just reviewing our interview the other day, our talk. So again, these things, as I know, with weaponry and stuff, long range directed weapons, can be done on and off. Can be done for experiment. So as far as I know, when they started bringing in 5G, and even over 2 years ago, so 2016 or so again, whenever you go to the internet and you want to get on a Wi-Fi network or something, they've got 5G on there. So here they had the choice of 2.4 or 5. And I actually had someone come here because they wanted to upgrade us again, right? You know, it's always the upgrade, right? And so he came in here, and I happened to be sitting with another friend who's actually in the military, by the way. The guy was told that he was told, they were instructed they have to put it to 5G. So the default is to 5G. I said, you put it back to 2.4. And then I spent that whole time educating. I said, if you want to save some lives, in fact, it's unlawful to put 5G in. So they're being actually instructed on the back end, when they're doing their whatever cables and everything else, or your communications devices, you have the option. And I really encourage people to go back and look at the routers and stuff like that, because it's dangerous. It really is. So again, in talking with stuff, if people haven't seen some of the basics to the 5G, I really encourage them to look at Sasha Stone's and Mark Steele's incredible thing called 5G Human Extinction. There's enough stuff coming out there. And also stopthecrime.net, which is also with Deborah Tavares, and she's connected a lot into with Dr. Bill Deagle. He's my favorite. All the hotspot stuff for like the last 15 years. I was studying him in Saskatoon 15 years ago. So this is really important that people know what's going on, and that there's a bigger agenda, that's happening. It's kind of interesting too that Lloyd's of London will not actually cover, insurance and stuff too. So we have to look at why it's really being deployed and what are the things. So radiation is radiation, and it's like going to the cancer clinic, which to me, no one in their right mind would do either. But, when you start looking at what they did, actually, I don't know if you realize too, Saskatoon was one of the early developments of the radiation for the cancer and oncology. Did you know that, Alfred? Cobalt and everything was developed out in here. It sits. There's some very nasty stuff sitting on display in the Royal University, the Reptilian Royal Draco University here, including coinage and stuff from previous wars that go back thousands of years. There's a whole sort of almost satanic Luciferian, I'll call it, temple or whatever they want to do here. Right to ball and everything else. Most people are oblivious to it, but they keep this on campus. I said it's almost like a mud flood city, like the Tartarian stuff, right? If people only really knew what was under the depths of this city, they'd be all freaking out, knowing that we're on a transit line between Winnipeg to Suffield to Nelson to all these deep underground military bases, and have actual FEMA camps up here. People are very oblivious. So if we start with the 5G, I would suggest people start looking there. And this is just the least of the thing, just being microwaved on here. It's used for crowd dispersal as well. And how people want to deal with it is up to them. But I'm doing things, let's say, even with David Wolf and Shaga. So this goes back to having radiation and stuff. Shaga's amazing. So that's probably why I'm doing as well as I did, is I went to Banff and I was in a very, like the national forest. And I sat in the hot springs, having natural mineralization trying to ground, because it depletes everything. You are literally microwaved, and all your electrolytes and minerals are just gone. And then what happens is when you knock down your fifth chakra, your throat and thyroid and parathyroids, which is your ability to, as we say, speak in truth, or your communications. We have this incredible being that we have, but when this is my output and people are affecting it, what happens as well is that when we do even genius biofeedback, it's done on voice analysis. Because if you have viruses, bacteria, or your meridians are blocked in the lower areas, your voice will not be able to command. Everything's about the spoken word, and that will affect my communications. That's where we say I can talk till I'm blue in the face, or this is for people that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So we'll see how much gets through here. But I think that was really amazing, that we did some of those things. I talked about doing the steam, and actually I've got my steamer going here just to having things aerate, but that's actually been the most effective thing I've found still. So I've been doing 20 minutes on my root chakra to open up all the meridians and make sure I'm earth and ground. And I put minerals back in, and I've been actually remineralizing up here. Because what happens is when you get radiated, or, as people, if they've ever had cancer clinic, right, they're losing their hair. And that was the start of what I saw, is that the hair was starting, the scalp was starting to fall out, and it's still burnt in here. So the eyes, the vision, the hearing, your memory, there's so many things that people are going to just chalk it up to. Oh, it's just age, or, oh, it's just this, or the children are having nosebleeds. Oh, just a little stuffy here right now. Oh, it's pollen season, And again, they're putting a lot of these towers right on or near the children. I was actually very, very happy to see different places like Portland trying to say absolutely no way. In San Francisco, some of the firefighters had said no way because of the neurological damages, so they got it moved. And what was always funny to me is that I sat and I watched the United Nations, and I watched as it's almost like a Senate hearing or a state reconvened hearing. And there was doctor after doctor after doctor saying, we don't have any safety standards. This is going to affect the heart. Every organ starts getting affected here. And there's no testing, no safety standards. And that's the bottom line. And I mean, again, they won't even insure it for you. So we need to look at things like this. There needs to be a cease and desist and a moratorium put down on these things. As a, de jure bona fide clan and tribal mother, with the white bear Arcturian, or whatever we would say with our bloodlines is a hereditary, I still have authority, and I want this thing shut down. And I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. I mean, if I think of a child or my children right now are in places that have smart meters, they're getting also, you can be targeted specifically. You can target just the house. They'll be able to see absolutely everything you're doing. And now they want to basically upload your little mind to the IoT, or the Internet of Things. There's so many things that, not even potentially, but are already going around. We've already proved that it's dangerous. There are other places and countries now that are banning it already, but they want to keep plugging here. And when I get a letter back from the city of Saskatoon, and you know what their response was? It's okay, it meets federal standards. They just absolved themselves out of everything. Like, it didn't matter if I took it to the mayor, because I knew he saw it on Facebook. I put like 20, 30 things. I put it to the police. I'm going, well, what more do I have to go? Put down some more green sheets in the witness thing, But yeah, we've got to look at protecting ourselves. And this is a silent killer, You can't see it, face it, or whatever. And that's why I've started using some of these biofeedbacks, because radionics, scalar wave, new dramatic medicine, whatever we want to say when we go into this, we're able to use this off grid, I might add, because it's a software problem. So once I got the software in here, I never need to go back on unless I want to, send emails or something. But really, the software can start using it, and it starts pulsed energetic, electrical, magnetic, because this is knocking out our chakras, our auras. And you've got no defenses, absolutely none. And I mean, if it's not going to burn out of the sky, what do you think it's going to do to you? We're already losing the wildlife here. And you combine that with the, ozone and UV, A, B, and C, because we've got no ozone here in salination. This is just a remedy for total genocide that's been forced upon us. So, we can do all the, like I said, shog I want, and the herbs I want, and the spirulina, and the algaes, and, deal with it kind of like the Fukushima idea, and be on spring water, because spring water is biophotonic. It has a different chemistry than H2O. It's H2OP1. It's like photonic. It's living water. That's why it's scriptural. So I only drink this, and I thought, oh my gosh, if this is what's happening to me already within like 2 weeks, I can imagine someone that's got like, I mean, my aura is normally looks like a pink flamingo and really purpley and stuff. It's very high energy. And when it can knock me down, it's also allowing, again, I'm being nuked from the inside out. And that is, people are going to have to pay, for their crimes. This is, like you said, it's a war crime. And for that, we need to look at things. I've also looked at Dr. Catherine Horton. She's been on some chat rooms that I've been in as well. But, Dr. Catherine Horton is doing stuff, Ramola Dharmaraj and stuff like that. There's so many people. Even Carrie Cassidy's been doing stuff. Miles Johnston. I mean, there's all sorts of people, as much as we can do, those of us that are journalists. But when it attacks us, or you're getting people like David Wolf, I just found another one. None of it was David Wolf giving death threats. I got some, assault things like on Facebook. But now some of the other, people that are natural health practitioners, Dan MacDonald. So there's a lot of people, just because we're standing up and saying here, we want you to cleanse, we want you to detox. People are laughing. Sorry. People are laughing and stuff like that. But, that's what I've got, lemonade or master cleanser in here. So you could put the diatomaceous earth as a zeolite, or I've got activated charcoal or carbon C60. But a lot of people, if they can't afford it, doing like this, I've just been chugging this back. It seems to be helping a bit. But we need to look at some really excellent solutions. And if they're going to deploy this out against people saying, I like this to go out to, at least this is free for a couple of weeks. I mean, that could be the difference between life or death, just to download the software app on people's things. So I'll put the link later. But, you know, I can see what's happening even, you know, to my relatives, to children, you know, photosensitivity, things like that. I mean, a lot of people are just tired. I mean, just today, I've got 3 friends that just can't get out of bed. And the anxiety that is doing that, because as it gets to the biofilm, it starts shutting things down and shutting things down. People get very, not only depressed, but anxious. And that just feeds part of the loosh agenda and the harvesting and stuff in adrenochrome. But, you know, I mean, if we really knew what we were doing, you know, we wouldn't have hospitals. You know, we wouldn't have to, you know, we didn't even have Bailey and neonatal, you know, when I started. Then we got neonatal. Now we need a whole entire thing on the, you know, for child maternal wellness. I mean, this is insanity. And again, you combine that with the vaccine program that's, you know, has been happening, or people have been scooping up children. Like, people just don't realize. I get reports back from First Nations on the reserve. They just took like 15 or 20 some children. They just scoop up everyone under 13. And some of these places have got no communications right now. They're taking their phones away, and the children are being taken to make them strong, right? I mean, this was bad enough with the, you know, smallpox thing, but now we got, you know, 5G on top of it. And it's not new. I mean, I've been listening to people like Drake Bailey and Patty Broussard and some of the super soldiers and the secret space program and Ken Dunn and all those people, Dr. Sam Muskie and stuff. I mean, even they're saying, you know, this has been around since the 50s. It's not new, but, you know, you've got a military version of it. And again, you've got the public version. And it does not affect people the same way down in the bases where they've been running it, because their genetics are different. And also the atmosphere is different. So even hybrids or people like that, or half-breeds and stuff, their genetics are different. How you absorb things, like, you know, copper versus iron. I mean, people could be grounded or not. I mean, you and I have got biomats and stuff like that, but I mean, that's not even cutting it right now. You know, you can only have so much, and I think we need to shut them down at the core element. And maybe that's something you can assist me with too, because I know, you know, going into the courts and filing these things is an amicus curiae and stuff like that. A little rusty on some of my stuff, but I'm able to talk. I still have a voice, and I still have the education. And as my Gita said to me, they can take everything away from you, fire everything, but they'll never take away your knowledge, Karen, and they'll never take away the education you gave me. And that's something that, you know, my grandparents and stuff instilled on me. So I've lost many things over the years. I've had stuff, you know, with children. I've been in court situations many, many times. This is nothing new to me, because they were targeting our bloodline because of the genetics that we hold. There is a genocide going on, as you said. And the General Assembly of the United Nations, the only reason they're worried now is they found out that their buildings have the 5G towers on them. So they found their staff. Otherwise, they couldn't have cared it was in the public. I mean, it was quite amazing to listen to the United Nations say, the guy said, I don't know anything about this. And they starts laughing. You know, it was almost as insulting as, like, you know, when they came out with the vaccines, and Merrick said, you know, he laughed about how many people they were going to kill with the simian monkey, the cancer virus, SV40. So we have to look at some of these things, and I'm not sure where you'd kind of like to go from here, but it's really, really important. Like, you know, you can keep measuring things too, like I do. I've got soaks and stuff like that. I measure that, and I still need better things. But the bottom line, I think, with what Patty Broussard and other people have said to me, you're going to need a facility. What we got, the biggest thing is we got to decontaminate everyone. So not just the 5G radiation, but the other forms of radiation, and that all the food is radioactive here. And we got a pole shift. So to me, that's actually where I'd like to focus to, is getting these facilities up. Decontaminations, what do we call it? A bio-ecosphere, an eco-village, call it whatever. We have to have safe places for ourselves and for our children, you know, and backup centers that can be, you know, replicated, that can deal with this. Because the military, I know a lot of them, Captain Randy Kramer, Dan Willis, many people, Paul Hellyer, a lot of people that spoke in front of the U.S. Senate committee when they had the serious disclosure project and stuff like that. A lot of them, and Emery Smith and stuff, a lot of them know how to replicate this stuff. You know, and they cannot, because of their oaths and what they've done as, you know, Marines and stuff like that, so that they don't get charged with espionage and treason themselves. They can actually, though, replicate it, as long as they don't take anything out from their day work or whatever, their assignments. They can actually start replicating stuff, which I know some of them are very close to doing right now. So, you know, I think you need to look around the neighborhood. You need to know what they look like. I mean, I'm amazed people, you know, that's why I went out to look at the water. You know, when I went with Carmela out to Banff, and then I said, we got to go to Cyprus, right? That's where it's all about. That's where the water, that's where all these dams are breaking. And we're going to have the waters open in order to have that. So it's not inundated and stuff. We have like a free Tesla coil running on the planet, the original ley lines, salinated. All the dams are going to have to open. And that's part of the remedies that they'll have to do, you know, before they violated all the treaties with the first 13 nations with us. And so I want everything put back. I don't even know that they were here. And, you know, a lot of people too, you know, when you're saying about the flood zones and stuff like that, you know, the people need to realize that those areas have been absolutely wrecked here. I've spoken with Robert Gregg or whatever, Monsanto himself, for a couple hours. And these people have they're almost like psychopathic. You know, why would I want to go with him to Florida for a couple of weeks? Well, they've destroyed everything here. They've destroyed my children. They've got vaccine programs. I mean, I don't even have any clean land around here. You know, right up to all the stuff they've done to the contract, even on the reserves, what was left for reserve is all contaminated now. And that's the other thing I want to bring up. When I went to Cyprus and when I've gone to look at the First Nations, again, as you think reserves, again, it's not quite in the corpus juris secundum, but they're classified as a third world country. As an inhabitant is the actual legal law term properly, you know. So not all of us get to be a sovereign and a little noble savage like me running around, but with my sovereign place today. But what happens is on those reserves, they violated all the original treaties anyway that were never ever authorized by clan mothers. So Trudeau has been up here like, you know, making a whoop-de-doo. He's going to like apologize and do, you know, remedies. Like, I don't care whether he's a clone or not. There's no way you can remedy this. There's nothing here to reconcile. You know, genocide is genocide. And his handlers were told never to come back in this area with him again. I see they violated that when I went up to talk to them 2 years ago. So these actual 5G towers are on the reserves. The smart meters are on the reserves. The people are ill up there. You know, and if you knock out the original holders of the people, the wisdom and the, you know, keepers of this planet, it's being terraformed for people that are psychopaths. And you, like you mentioned the other day, the reptilian agenda. So I don't know what your feelings are on that, but I want this shut down. And if we have to use the courts, start with it. You know, I'm prepared to maybe do something like that and, you know, maybe look at doing some stuff with Catherine too, but it's got to be shut down. Getting a piece of paper saying, I'm absolved of my sins, because it's a federal thing. Yet they've got all the city of Saskatoon stickers on it, because I have pictures of them all, you know, and that is something that, you know, people need to really realize, that when you have these things, you need to be proactive. Because I'm glad I went up and got all the pictures when I did, because now all of a sudden they got barbed wire around there. But I was in there while they were digging. So I have stuff right to when there was snow falling.
Well, I mean, you've mentioned Dr. Catherine Horton's project.
Yeah.
And her project, as I understand it, is to gather affidavits.
Correct.
Persons who have been targeted with directed energy weapons of various sorts.
Right.
Well, in this case, affidavits could be gathered from persons who are being targeted by the promoters of the 5G projects and who are being targeted by directed energy weapons to promote this genocidal and ecocidal project throughout Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The rollout of all these electromagnetic energy weapon systems, which are disguised as telecom projects.
Yeah.
And even the nation states currently are publicly talking about them as espionage projects, not talking about them as what they are,
yeah.
which is genocidal and ecocidal projects. They say, oh, they're genocidal projects. Huawei is, espionage project. According to the US, Huawei's 5G is an espionage project, whereas the US or the West,
mm-hmm.
through Nokia or Ericsson,
right.
is not an espionage project, whereas both Huawei and the Western version of 5G are primarily ipso facto, by their nature, EMF, genocidal, and ecocidal projects. There's no way around that, mm-hmm. given the design of the entire delivery system of electromagnetic frequencies and its effect on the human biosystem and the ecological biosystem. Mm-hmm. So one practical way would be to coordinate with Dr. Catherine Horton and to start an affidavit project here in Canada to begin to gather people's affidavits. You've been targeted. I was targeted by directed energy weapons on the night of October 17th, 2018, to the point where I thought I was going to die. And since Canada is a signatory to the International Criminal Court statute, its courts have been enabled with universal jurisdiction to try war crimes, so that the courts of Canada can be used since none of the jurisdictions here that we've tried so far, it can be done at the city council level,
right.
It can be done at the provincial level, it can be done at the parliamentary level. When the U.S. Attempted under the George W. Bush administration to bring U.S. missile defense into Canada, which is the right. first step toward a nuclear first strike. That's right. what missile defense is. Everything is its direct opposite. And that was to make Canada kind of the arms of the nuclear first strike against Russia, to make a planetary nuclear war. Mm-hmm. We were able at the city council level to get city councils starting here in BC, Sparwood, BC, Vancouver, BC,
right.
various other cities, declare the space over their cities weapons free. Mm-hmm. We can do that by going to city councils, by going to provinces, declaring their territory EMF genocide free. That is, but that takes people. It takes people to get activated, and it seems like the people are numbed out. What do you think?
I don't think they're numbed out. I've got 250,000 people with fluoridated brains here, so they're already, in there. There are a lot of people, like I said, even just in my groups, just to get the couple people to do the letters. Again.
Could we here in Canada activate the population to the point? You've got TELUS, you've got Shaw, you've got Huawei, you've got Nokia, you've got all of these brands and billions of dollars. You've got the produce of the South. You've got Trudeau. You know, they're all like 5G gung ho because they're brainwashed. They're brain stupid.
Well, they're legal aliens themselves.
No concept. They have no willingness to look at the facts. They're entirely brainwashed by corporate consumerism, and they have no idea of looking at why 5G, which is about essentially the transhumanist agenda to robotize humans and to genocide the human biology. And generally at the city council level, it seems that most city councils are kind of bought out, right? So how do you think we can go forward? What is your thought?
Well, I think the one thing would be to keep ourselves healthy. Second is to, that's it, and get this, you know, what do you want to say, 5G proofed facility up and going. In the short term, we could, you know, do some sort of an education thing here. Like I said, I've already gone, and, you know, it's like we absolve ourselves, but, you know, I sat there and I started going, no, I'm going to give you 5G extinction, and we're going to give you this that Mark Steele's doing.
Tell you what if we drafted an ordinance and a statute, a simple Sydney ordinance, that on health grounds, a health and safety ordinance that on health grounds banned 5G in Canadian cities, that city councils could adopt. It's real simple.
It is, because it comes under,
it's backed by a lot of research, okay? And we drop that on city councils. You think that would have any effect?
I think it's going to start having some effect. I mean, just by the people starting to go what they did in Portland or in the Netherlands and stuff, or what they did. I mean, it has had an effect. The education is it. I mean, I thought about making a trifold and just going out because I couldn't find one that I like, right? You know, see some birds die, see a child's nose bleeding, you know, put their brains going like, you know, they need to be educated. Like, you almost have to do that. But to drop it into the city council, because ultimately they're the ones responsible. Then you've got your people running, you know, and again, there's no city of Saskatoon. There's no Sask Energy, Sask Power, whatever, you know, as all this stuff comes in. They're using our stuff illegally and unlawfully, which they're not entitled to. But again, you go after the people individually and jointly, separately, whatever. We can take them also into the court system, you know, as well in there.
Yeah. So the next thing would be to write a city health ordinance, a municipal health ordinance.
That could maybe also help, because the other thing too, that gives you public health nursing. I mean, I've sent everything to the Saskatoon region, and, you know, you just do one and, like, you know, notice to, you know, principal and agent is noticed or whatever, but, you know, so I've done my stuff. It's not getting anywhere, other than obviously they don't like what I'm doing, but I did. There are some people that,
I mean, look, if Belgium, if Brussels, which is the pedocriminal capital of the world, banned 5G, right?
Yeah. Of course, it's going to cut into their, like, you know, trafficking. Yeah. You know, they need viable, you know, trafficking children, you know, organs, but it needs to be shut down and banned, you know, and the climate, you know, I want this stuff shut down, you know, and then right now, then they're going to be accountable for what they did to us. I don't reconcile. This is past reconciliation, you know, and I'd also like to have something put into the, you know, also not only the international courts, but the military and stuff like that. You know.
Well, this is a national election year, and my MP in Vancouver is a First Nations leader. She's a chief, Jody Wilson-Raybould.
Okay.
Maybe we could go to her with this statute, right?
Yeah. You know, I think if people start realizing, we start bringing it here, like, the amount of effort, you know, that I've gone in or something, like up at Muskeg here, which is one of my closest reserves outside the inner one in here in Atakakoop. When I went up there, I remember the first time I went back up there and I couldn't sleep at night. And I haven't been able to sleep because now I feel this is still coming in. And, you know, it was funny because I didn't tell my roommate either anything but what happened that last Friday. She had the same thing. She had the same thing oscillating with the nose. She thought it was like burnt or something. And she goes, I wasn't out that long, you know? So we're experiencing the same thing. So it's kind of funny when you do things like that. But I think going back to, you know, when you talk about the tribes here, you know, whether it's the Cree Nehiyawak or out there, you know, you got your Squamish and all the different ones, that's really huge. But I'm just trying to get them even to like get self-sustainable. You know, they're putting a food forest up there. And one of the things when we were up there on the reserve, they're just starting to do food for us, you know. And I said, gosh, help you if, you know, when the pull shift comes, you guys are just hooped here. But, you know, going up there and starting to, you know, put a shield up, you know, I've given them the stuff. I mean, sort of going up. And then they wanted me to come up and like go get stuff and do it for them. Like, I mean, I can't do everyone's. But if we start there, you know, with some of those local leaders, I've given stuff too, but we do it to the tribal or federated tribe stuff and the mothers and get it going that way. I mean, these people have to realize they know what genocide is. We all do. So if we could start with something like that, like you said, Jody or whatever, close by, you know, like I said, there's violations happening everywhere on the international fronts. I mean, they're fracking, you know, Manuel and all that up to and Schwettenbach up by Kamloops and stuff. And I mean, the women are putting, I don't know if you know about the tiny house movement, but they're all moving it up there because they don't want the men in the fracking and the logging up there. And they're having nothing but problems, you know. They're getting arrested, you know, for being on their own land. I mean, this is insanity. And I get the whole thing about the contracts and the colonization, but they have violated everything. So maybe that's another great way to start. And maybe some people, like I said, even that one interview that we just did a few days ago, that came to Curtis, go talk to that. It's like, you know, bring us all together here. You know, there's Tower, there's, you know, the other one, I mean, of all things is out in Kelowna is Dr. Ross Anderson, you know, our ozone doc, but with the EMF. I was out with him while they were doing teaching on the 5G and the, you know, BC hydro stuff and the smart meters, like way back when. And, you know, I always laughed, you know, one of the things I got, which was kind of bizarre, but I started dealing with people that were EMF sensitive. And I don't know what it is or the circle that comes around, but the very first client I almost had to do, I couldn't see them in my health center. I had to go do as you call a house call, right? I used to do as a holistic house calls. And the woman that couldn't get out of bed, that was EMF sensitive, I joke not, is in the apartment right before they put where this tower is 2 blocks away. I went, is this some sort of like time shifting or something? And, you know, you can only do so much stuff. Like I went and I actually got fabric and stuff. There's soft fabrics people can get too. I mean, I'm not quite the tinfoil hat lady, which is, you know, Gieges here in Saskatoon too, which might be, you know, getting some of these people in here, but you can actually get EMF fabric. But I mean, why are we having to do this, you know, as a bandage? And like I said, everything is a bandage. The bottom line is they're not supposed to be here. And I'd like to see what it is. Like I'm ready to start going back up to the basis and knocking at the guard door. But, you know, talk to Patty and the expats and the, you know, what we can do, you know, on that. I mean, they've got the designs, you know, what we can do to protect ourselves. But, you know, we need to get the DNA restored because there will be no population. And, you know, this is our mother's land, you know.
Right. So if we worked with yourself, with Patty, with Captain Jerry Flynn of the Canada Defence Forces, 26-year veteran in electronic warfare, he wrote the 287-page brief to the British Columbia Public Utilities Commission that resulted in the BC statute mandating optional smart meters here. I know that here in our house, we have no smart meter. I mean, boom, it's out. And that was the result of Captain Jerry Flynn's work. So we're going to consult him,
right,
to come up with a statute that bans 5G. Okay.
I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
Right.
With this municipal ordinance, then you can, through your networks, get it introduced in Saskatoon. We get it introduced here in the Lower Mainland.
Right.
We reach out to people in Atlantic Canada, Janet Eaton, others in the Green Party. We've got Elizabeth May out on Vancouver Island.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that she's cognizant about 5G.
I put it on all the yellow vests and everything else now in the Prairie Freedom Movement. They said, we're right with you. And you know what the comment was on Facebook? They're doing it to you. We're screwed, Karen. He said, but we're behind you. He says, we're right behind you. So, and that was the again, people are aware.
Yeah. So all that we have to do is get this tool with us. We've got all the evidence. We've got Captain Jerry Flynn's 287-page report that was passed by the British Columbia Public Utilities Commission showing the health effects of EMF. It's right there.
Exactly.
And that passed muster to get the ban on smart meters here in BC. So why don't we get busy on that, and then I'll send around a draft to you and to Patty Broussard and to others, get it, and then begin to move it into the city councils. By the way, I just want to say something.
Okay.
That's a trick that the industry has done to say, oh, do you want 2.4 or 5G? The 5G in Wi-Fi is different. They're conflating the words 5G. 5G in the cell phones means 5th generation.
Yeah.
And that's the one where they have made it actually an urban weapon system for termination of the biosystems in that area, to make it like a moonscape.
Exactly.
Okay? To terraform the planet for AI.
Correct.
2.4 and 5G in your Wi-Fi system just relates to the frequency of the Wi-Fi. And what that was a mind control trip. This whole thing was done by psychological warfare experts.
For sure.
And so just because it's a good step to say, no, we don't want 5G Wi-Fi, we want it at 2.4, and we did it at this house. TELUS came in and bumped us up to 5G. I was sick in the house, and I called them up and said, bump us down to 2.4. Even here, we're in a place where we can't hardwire the house because it's so large.
Right.
And we don't have those funds, and it's not our house. But I just wanted to bring that kind of, they're using every psychological thing to like permeate the current human race, and it's coming straight out of Israel. These are hybrid reptilians, reptilian DNA,
right?
Who were bred to disestablish and essentially genocide proper humans. I mean, really, and that's why they've been over time exiled from every country. This is not anti-Semitic. The Palestinians are the Semites.
Yeah.
And 5 years ago, the Kuala Lumpur War Crimes Tribunal found the state of Israel guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide for the intentional killing of over 5 million of the native Semites, the native Palestinians who belong in Palestine, were done by this Khazar state. Can you believe that?
I don't believe anything, but you know, I look at this too, and even on this continent, there's been when I got the Clan Mother books back from the Dakota, and Dakota and Ojibwe mean Palladian, by the way, in the Star Nations. But when I got the Dakota books back from their tribe mothers and stuff to absorb and get the oral teachings, because it's not really written, but in there, that was one of the things too. There's been over 100 million viable, innocent people lives that have been actually taken here since the colonization. And I mean, even in the islands and stuff, and Cuba and everything else, in Jamaica, there was like 10 million people out there too.
Oh, I know. There is.
I just don't know.
Cuba was left bare. There isn't a Taino. There isn't a Carib left. They were all genocided by the Spaniards. The only brief that the Spaniards has from the King of Spain was to bring back gold in all of the New World. They were mandated to bring back gold. It didn't have to do anything to do with the indigenous. And I've got Taino DNA, so boom, there you go.
Yeah, you know, like Patty's got Micmac and stuff too, and I have mine and stuff too with ours as original peoples and stuff. The epigenetics are huge. Once you start getting some of these things back, whether it was my mercury fillings or whatever, I used to, when I was nursing, when I graduated nursing actually in the 80s, I actually had like jet black, dark brown eyes, and now they're like blue and gray. So, I mean, there's a whole thing to be said for your epigenetics and, you know, getting a new deck of cards. But we need to know, you know, as a nurse, this is genocidal. The harm is mental, it's emotional, it's physical, it's in the spiritual, it's in that electrical magnetic spirit, which people can't see. It's outside of their realm, right? And the 5G and stuff like that is in that microwave as opposed to different things. That alone just tells you in there. But right now, this is killing members of the groups. It's causing serious, because they're bodily, but as people know, bodily harm to the members. It's inflicting conditions. So you're going to get actually the side effects. It's no different than going to, you know, the cancer clinic, you know, in there that they're inducing into us through the terraforming and also the geoengineering and stuff too. Because, I mean, this guys in here were just, I know Candida yeast and fungus was all coming down and like beryllium and everything else today too. But the deliberate inflicting of the groups has been calculated to the physical destruction, whether it's one part or in whole. They're imposing stuff intended to prevent further reproduction, further creation, further procreation within the bloodlines as well. And, you know, forcibly doing this to people here, you know, and they're going to be punished for this. The genocide, you know, it's conspiracy, it's all sorts of things, you know, direct and everything else in there. I mean, the list could be that long, you know, and I'm with Patty, you know, in some sense too. And I know she may still be from that military soldier thing, but, you know, there's nothing to reconcile in this. But if we can at least get the corporations, or get the corpse, they're all dead anyway, but get these people and get some of it at the ground level from stopping some of this, we might have a shot at it. And like I said, we're only going to have a viable, you know, small thing. So even Saskatoon with 250,000, if you take half of them that have been hybridized, genetically modified, colonization, stuff like that, I mean, what are we sitting with? Less than 8% of the city is viable. But that's 8% we got to deal with. You know, and my direct thing is for myself and to keep a safe spot for my children. I have been told too as well, and again, take it with the grain of salt as it goes in the, you know, file I get to, that there's a Princess Rainey Brown that is taken over from the reptilian Draco stuff from Queen Elizabeth. So they did actually contact me and they said they were giving me Canada back. So I didn't know that it was theirs ever in the first place, but you know, there seems to be something else that's going on, other agendas in here too, and that she was being raised up. So whether they're jumping, not jumping, whatever, I don't know. It's all a story, but I'm hearing stuff, but they have contacted me. So, you know, there are bigger things they're going to have to atone for here, you know, on that. And I wouldn't want anyone to go through this, you know. I can imagine a baby having to go through this that has no defenses, you know, and to know that someone actually is sitting behind a button or a trigger or something somewhere, you know, doing this to me is unconscionable, absolutely unconscionable. And for that, you know, they used to say, I remember, the clan there, you got the cute little tartan and the swords, you know, the two swords, life and death. And it's an offense to actually commit harm to a clan member. And for that, they forfeit their life. That's international law, by the way. And it always has been tribal law. So, I mean, I can have the, you know, stuff done on that end too. Because they do. It is an act of war. And that's where the whole thing is getting in with Gitmo and stuff too, that's going down Guantanamo Bay. And the military martial courts and stuff too. You know, there's a lot.
Well, you know, I just noted that we've hit the 60-minute mark on this, and I'm thinking, why don't we do this and say that now we're going to take it on as our assignment to develop a city health ordinance banning 5G in Canada that can be adopted by cities. We successfully banned U.S. missile defense from coming into Canada. Even the Liberal government finally folded, you know. We started with, it was the first city that did it was Sparwood, BC, adopted it. Vancouver, it went across the whole country, and finally the Liberal government folded. They said, I surrender. There was that famous press conference that the Liberal Prime Minister did. He said, I surrender. And the secret deal that the Liberals had with President George W. Bush to bring in U.S. missile defense, which now the conservative challenger in the October 21st election 2019 has said that if they win, they're going to bring in U.S. missile defense, which means that they're on the side of Trump for a nuclear first strike against Russia, against whoever.
Right.
You know, they're out to, I call it the nuclear trifecta. The planet that was the asteroid belt, and then Mars, and then Earth for planetary nuclear wars. Boom.
Right.
And so why don't you and I reconvene when we have that statute, and I hope to get you a draft very soon, and we can share it with Patty, with a number of people, and then we can begin to bring it to city councils. We can begin to bring it to Jody Wilson-Raybould, and really begin to hold people's feet to the fire, like they say.
I'd like to see that because, you know, I looked at what people, you know, like the ex-vets have done when they were in, like, I do with a lot of ex-vets and that kind of thing, post-traumatic stress or whatever I'm doing in my counseling and stuff, coaching. But the amount of radiation they've already gone through. I mean, I look at Patty, she lost all her teeth just from the damn radiation there.
Yeah.
I mean, and I went back and I went, oh, great. I mean, that's what I was in the dental thing for today, too, because I could feel the teeth oscillating. And I mean, I've watched Patty's teeth just fall out the front. I mean, there's no protection to this.
Yeah. Also, in conjunction with that, we can both contact our colleague, Dr. Catherine Horton.
Yeah.
And to start a collaborative project here in Canada, an affidavit project, so that those of us who have been attacked by directed energy weapons here can begin to submit our affidavits, and those affidavits would accompany accompany the submissions to the city councils, would accompany international criminal court statute litigations that we start in national courts of Canada pursuant to the international criminal court statute. For
like this, I can feel it.
No. I mean, this is look. We are dealing with a genocidal, psychopathological entity that is manifested in the state of Israel, and that's what's true. And they've taken over the various institutions. They've taken over the USA Corporation. They've taken over many other institutions with their values.
I think it's no coincidence that I just happened to meet with, someone on the, for climate change, right? And came in, it's the Canadian Medical Association and the Nursing College and stuff too. But, people don't realize I'm one of the few ones. And again, when you see the kind of burning that can happen.
Yeah, look at that. And it's a Z. They carved the Z.
Well, and it's almost like, the astral and stuff too. But I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Zulu time, or is it like Zorro? But you can actually see how it's scarring in there. Yeah. And, like I said, whether it was this one or from up top or some was outside, it's absolutely huge. But, when you think of something like that, I just wanted to show you a couple more I didn't show you before. Because what happens is that when you get this, which was really weird, you could almost see.
Right.
I mean, in there is just absolutely huge. And this is, you can see it was like being on a Foreman grill. You can actually see the vertical lines in there.
Right.
And to get that in here. But again, to get up, your ears are peeling, everything's peeling. I mean, just like, I didn't show you those ones, but that's absolutely huge. And I mean, like I said, my hair was just coming apart.
Right.
Like the size of that ain't dandruff. That was my scalp my brain's coming out. What do you do with something like that?
Yeah.
And like I said, I want them all.
Yeah. No, we can start filing our affidavits. I was hit with a directed energy weapon on October 17th, 2018, and it came from Israel.
Well, and do you remember when you, Dan, and Sergeant Daniel McBullen and Patty and I were talking? They blasted you through the headphones. You had to. We couldn't even finish an interview because they can come in and use things or play with stuff.
Yeah.
There's the new one. I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people have not seen the new little street light things, and you can see actually how they're running the wires. There's a wire going across now. I'm like, now what are they doing? But all the way down the street, it's been shut down, and people have got to be aware. But I mean, I hope I scared the crap out of them the other day. At least they took that one down.
Right.
But hopefully, yeah. I mean, that when they can do that, it's really hard to get into, an auric field. But this is why these are important, because if you don't have something like this, like a phone app, just like, you're measuring the nitrates or you're looking at the paint, if you can't look at what's going on to you, this still measures the auric field, the electrical magnetic field on here. And I mean, if you get all the other juicier things, so be it. But, that's not what mine normally looks like. And when you're getting physical damage and brain damage, I mean, I can correlate it with all this stuff. But I mean, normal should be like, nice, hot, pink, purpley, you're up there, you're glowing, you've got you're radiating, and I'm storing energy. It's not being depleted, and this was the one here, just to let you know. I was up at the reserve up here locally, and well, again, you got to do what you got to do when you're teaching your root chakras things. But when it out there, but They've been just genocided. And that was one of the reasons I couldn't stay up there before. And even though I told them all this 3 years ago, it's still not covered, right? How much education you got to do? I don't know. And that's the problem. Like I said, that's on the Muskeg Lake Reserve. So it's in violation of all the international and tribal laws too. For
Right.
these ones that have their wampum melts, peace pipe, and canes of authority. So violates my Noah's Ark. So I don't care which one it is. They're all in violation of the international laws.
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that we got a lot accomplished today.
Yeah, we did. Thank you.
And
I'm feeling much more hopeful. As a mom, I'm feeling hopeful again. I would like to, and maybe if Patty's open or something, is to really go through what in detail is required. Because people think we just want to put up like a healing lodge, or I'm just going to put up a house, or it's another biosphere and eco thing. It's not. Those particular facilities, you've got to have 3 different types of special glasses, which of course they basically ban here. Okay, so it would have to be an international effort to get this thing up, because they don't want people having access to this kind of stuff, Alfred. And what happens is that we need special glasses to prevent the radiation from coming in. So, you've got to have everything self-autonomous, eventually, there's going to be no commerce.
Right. That's at the protected area.
It is.
This effort is to try and ban it at the source.
Yeah.
To have, let's get entire cities that are safe areas.
Yeah. And, when you start looking at some of this stuff too, so whether it's the pole shift and the magnetic shield, that's what it's knocking out on the same thing on the people. It doesn't matter if I'm looking at the pole shift and the magnetic earth shift, or what's coming in on the planet. It's almost like, so within and so without, above and below.
Well, maybe you, I, and Patty should do a show more on the geomagnetic and the whole pole shift aspect of it. Would that be good?
I think that would be absolutely, because you know what? Patty was actually, take it for what it is, but Patty was the NBC officer, which means she was the nuclear ballistics and communication expert for the U.S. Army Freedom Team. Okay, so she's the one that developed all this radiation stuff. Alfred, I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
Patty was the one that developed all this and was behind it.
Yeah, I mean, Patty and I were the ones that Q was saying that had done all this stuff. So,
Yeah, I think things are going to be in here, but like, this is not a little facility. This is not rammed earth. It's not an eco village. It's not, you can do it in hemp. Those days are gone. You can't garden anymore. Yeah. You're going to have to decontaminate everything. So that facility, she's telling me, is close to $6 million to do. 16 people, I know, is whatever, 307,000. And it's got to be above and below. But I mean, we would have to bring that in. And like she said, we could deal with some other stuff too and replicate your technology. To me, this is the most important thing. Even Putin's isn't up to snuff. Okay, they're doing it. Don't think they're not doing this in Russia. These are the Russian ones and stuff starting to come. Okay, they know
that's kind of the post-apocalyptic.
But yeah, like you said, it's all about how many bloodlines did we have and how many we're going to have left here. Those are your bloodlines. This is what it's all about. As many of those have been wiped out. And that's the same thing when you get the targeting. So I don't want it to look like what it does on Mars right now. I don't want to have to deal with that kind of stuff. We got enough galactic stuff here, and we got enough people that are dealing with it. We're on the ground.
Why don't we do that next? Let's schedule that program right now.
Yeah.
When would you like to schedule that?
I'm totally open for this.
I mean, we have to schedule in Patty.
Yeah, well, we can talk to her. I can give you.
So do you want to schedule it tentatively for Wednesday, June 19th?
Yeah, that fits for me.
Okay.
Wednesday, June 19th is great.
At
same place.
At the same time?
Same time, same place,
Yeah.
same tradition.
Yeah. Could you contact Patty?
Yeah, I will do that. I would be happy to do that, and we'll see where that flies. Hopefully she's open and receptive to this stuff too.
Good. And by that time I'll have the statute, and we'll be in touch with Karen Horton. I mean,
Catherine.
Catherine Horton.
I'd love to talk. I've never talked to her. I've chit-chatted in the.
Oh yeah, she's great.
No, she seems amazing. So I've been a big fan of hers for years. So, but yeah, if we can get this going in here, and I'm so grateful. I was just listening to all the stuff with, like, Mark Steele and Sasha and all that stuff. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of people have been very helpful, and some of the super soldiers and stuff too. So it's been great.
Okay, so is there anything that you would like to say to our audience until then?
I really would like people to start looking at some of the cleansing and the detox. A lot of this stuff is not expensive, and in these facilities you won't be able to, like, pack up. I'm doing stuff with Marfugal reports and Face It Fearless, and teaching them prep stuff with some of the military and some of the other stuff. Marfugal's a really cool thing to listen to as well. I found some stuff, but if people can come and take a look at it, Patty does have something on Facebook. It's called Radiation Graphic Room. So if they go to Radiation Graphic Room, they can do a lot of self-education there. And like I said, there's the in 5G, the human extinction, and some of the stuff you and I have done. And then there was a summit. So even like that, I was like giving it out to Rex Bear and anyone I could still find and who was around there. But David Wolf has got some really great detox stuff, I've noticed, and it's free. So at his best day ever, he's got a free PDF. And because it's got the zeolite in it and the activated charcoal and stuff like that, that would be very helpful for people right now. You know, whether we call it the black lemonade or something like that. And we need people alkalized. And Patty was saying too, I'll just show it if you haven't seen it, because I already had 2 emails already since our last one, but it's called Nushador. And this is one of the specific minerals. And, you know, I do have to share this with you. I wasn't joking. When I go to get things, Alfred, and I said, I want my, like, you know, Salmaki, I told you, Health Canada confiscates my stuff with more stuff than yellow tape than a crime scene. That took me almost a year to get it back. However, instead of paying like $100 and some and bringing these kind of things in, this is under $7 at the Nushador. And that's a mineral to repair the 3rd strand for the phosphorus and stuff. So it's called Nushador, because everyone keeps sending me stuff. It basically looks like that, and start taking a little bit out, like, you know, 1/8 of a teaspoon or in a capsule or in some water or something. And that'll help with some of the different things coming in the 3rd strand and activating the other DNA strands. So because, again, when you're getting this, I mean, what's it going to look like? The medical community, the draconian medical community is going to call it cancer. So if we can start using things like this and alkalizing and keep things cleaned, and look at my Facebook albums, and if people want a session, I still do one-on-one for people. But, you know, looking at these themes. And again, I even went to the doctor and he couldn't get over. Because what did you do? You know, even for when I was in there, when, you know, he saw what had happened, you know, last week when I came back. And that was one of the things too, because I've been steaming, and steaming is the most powerful form of medicine. Most people don't realize it. I told you I'd make it to Quack Watch yet. But, you know, I cannot emphasize enough. It's just to get a hot bowl of steamy stuff going, and put your herbs and stuff in here and just start steaming. And it usually goes over the root chakra, well, under the root chakra. And it's just supposed to be warm. But even here, just being under the blankets and stuff, that's actually what helped, because it's putting the electrolytes in the minerals. It's actually giving you a plasma shield. So people don't realize when I do this stuff, it actually cleanses the blood. It drains the lymphatics. It opens up the meridians. It's huge. And for people that have got cancer and stuff, this is an old technique before the Mayans. So this is a very old tribal Pachamama type thing. And so I don't care if you stick tea bags in, or I don't care what you stick in there. But look up yoni, or for men, they call it a lingam or a resume. And it's a genital, and I get it now. It's to open up your genes. That is the Stargate down there, you know, and people don't realize that. So get some stuff going, even if it's very simple. None of my stuff costs a lot because, as you can see, I'm up on the reserve a lot helping, you know, and they don't have two things to shake together up there. So I really want to get people alkalized and start getting them cleansing, detoxing, and enemas or coffee enemas or tea enemas or whatever. But shaga's amazing, and so is raw chocolate. Those are the two highest antioxidants with minerals and stuff like that that help protect the brain. A lot of people don't realize that. And we got no lack of abundance of supplies up here, you know. And you know, I hope people are having fun during this. I mean, it really is bringing us back to a place of gardening and being gardeners, you know what I mean? And I think the vision that we have is that it's going to be an off-grid facility that, you know, you don't have to wait till Freedom 55 and retire. But, you know, we need some cleansing to come in here, and it starts inside first. I mean, if we can't clean ourselves, how am I going to get through to people? You know, and if they want to get a hold of me, they can at clanmother13 with a K at Gmail, and Karen Lucid MacDonald, all lowercase, at Proton Mail, or Facebook, or whatever, or find Alfred. But yeah, that'd be great. And anything I could do for you, or on my end for you?
Yeah. Well, good. I'll just you know, to just keep on in this work. I will be developing the ordinance and getting in touch with Dr. Catherine Horton, and then setting up this Canada project to stop 5G here.
That'll be great. Oh, and you were right. So we did get one up. I've got friends that will help maintain some of it, but it's the Caring Bear Enclave facility and stuff. If people do the whatever crowdfunding or gifting, donation, or whatever, that's now been set up, and I think you've got the link for it.
Oh yes.
People want to be part of that. I've got friends and people that will deal with that as soon as I'm basically off grid, but there are people that, you know, start putting towards some of that. We'll see what all happens. And hopefully
Good enough.
we get it up.
Good enough. So this project is moving forward, and we'll watch it grow.
Thank
Good
you.
enough. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Short time.
I think that will be fun. You're gonna laugh. Just one more thing. I said, you know what? When I was on Facebook, I let it go. I even let the Russian embassy know what was happening here. I was like, everyone's gonna know by the time I'm done what's happening. I thought you'd have a laugh with that. I'm like, let's just get into this. Like, we can't tolerate this stuff. It'll be an international thing by the time we're done.
Right. Good.
Anyway, so, yeah, that's all we can do is use your social media and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And apparently MeWe and a bunch of other stuff now, and telegram.org. So perfect.
Excellent.
Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.